So earlier this month, I went out on the goal to pretty much make the most patriotic photo that I could for 4th of July. So July 3rd, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was July 3rd. Went out, did some photos, set up my camera, told my friend, hey, listen, as soon as I start ripping this burnout, you're gonna place your finger on this button and you're gonna leave it there until I'm done. So he places the finger on the button, and this is what we got. Alright, so jumping into Photoshop, let me show you the photos that I do have selected for this. So the first photo is going to be one that's just going to pretty much show the front of the car, but as you can see, there's not much smoke here to really fill the background. In the next photo, we just have a lot more smoke to fill the background, and same with this other photo, just a little bit more smoke to work with if we want to. So the original, just edit to work with the colors and exposure. We're just only gonna do that on our main photo where we can see the front of the car, and then we're gonna go ahead and copy and paste all the settings onto the other photos so they match. Keep in mind, when this photo was being taken, I had it locked down on a tripod, so there was no camera movement, there was no focus change, so then we can go ahead and easily merge all three of these photos together. All right, so jumping in this, I'm gonna go ahead and start with my preset here, Silver Steel. I'll go ahead and pretty much go over what this preset's doing, really dropping the highlights, but bringing up the whites here. It's not messing with the shadows and blacks off the get-go, bringing down our saturation, bringing up our clarity a little bit. It's gonna crush our blacks a little bit more also in the curves here, bring up our highlights just a touch in the curves. And then we're just messing with the hue of the yellows a little bit, and the hue of the blues as well. We're desaturating our aquas, but boosting the saturation of our blues, and then bringing up the saturation, luminance of our oranges. Also, it's doing a little bit down here with our calibration as well. Now, overall, I think this photo looks pretty good right off the get-go, but there's definitely some stuff we can do to make it better. First things first, let's go ahead and fix the crop of this photo and the angle, because this car is definitely not level. That fence in the background is not level. I mean, granted, by the end of this, you're not even gonna see that, but let's try and get it as level as possible. So to start, I'm just gonna go down here to transform, hit auto, and see what pretty much Lightroom can make of the photo and go ahead and do with it. And from here, that looks pretty decent, but it looks like we can adjust this a little bit more to clean it up just a little bit. All right, so from here, what I wanna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and boost our shadows and our blacks just a little bit. As you can see, we still have some pretty decent blacks in this image. I'm gonna bring those back down a touch. So we still have some blacks in this image, so I wanna keep my blacks in this photo crushed. I'm not trying to just flatten everything. Not really my style of what I do most of the time. Now from here, also I'm gonna go ahead and adjust temperature here. That looks pretty good right there. And what I'm also gonna do is grab our highlights. We're going for a kind of 4th of July look, so red, white, and blue. I'm gonna grab our reds and our highlights. Introduce a little bit of reds. That looks pretty good right there. And on our shadows, I'm gonna go ahead and grab some blues and bring some blues in. And then just kind of slide the balance slider here until there's something that you like. We're gonna actually decrease both those to maybe like 10% on each. This would be sliders, and then maybe go back to white balance a little bit here and see if I can't bring that down some. So overall, that actually looks pretty decent right there. I'm gonna change that to -10. That looks pretty good. So from here, what I'm just gonna do, add a couple filters onto it, and we're just gonna clean up the front of the car here with these little chips in the paint. I'm just gonna use the spot removal tool and go over that really quick. All right, so from here, I pretty much got the photo looking how I pretty much want it to. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is hit copy, so check all, and we're gonna go ahead and just paste that onto our other photos. And it looks like there may be a little bit too much magenta in this for me, so I may go ahead and fix that on this original photo, maybe -30 here, copy here, and just repaste it onto there, and it should go ahead and fix that. All right, now from here, I'm gonna go ahead and send all 3 of these photos over to Photoshop. So what we're gonna do is, pretty much this is our base photo. We're gonna go ahead, unlock these other ones that we sent over here, Control C. We're just copy and pasting them onto this main workspace. So I'm gonna unlock that there, Control C. So our background layer is going to be the one where the car is mostly exposed, and then we have these ones with more smoke over top. And actually, I accidentally duplicated the same thing. All right, so now I have all the correct layers over here. You can see these are all the 3 layers that we have. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is essentially, this layer is gonna keep, you know, the most detail in the photo because it exposes most of the car. We can see most of the front end of the car because there's not a ton of smoke, but we can also see a bunch of the background, which we really don't want to see. We want to have more smoke in the photo. So what I'm going to go ahead and do with this layer here, I'm going to go ahead and add a mask layer. Control I, we're going to invert that mask so it's black. So right now that mask is completely see-through. So when we go ahead and paint on it with a white brush, it will start to make that layer not transparent anymore, so we can actually go ahead and see it. If I paint over the front of the car, you can see it's bringing in all of that layer. But we don't want to do all that. We only want to bring in certain bits and areas of the smoke. Make sure your hardness is all the way down on your brush so it's nice and feathered on the edges. Bring in some nice smoke in front of the car. Maybe you have it wrap around the front of the car a little bit. Also, it kind of gives these nice highlight blooms over here with the headlights. Maybe add a little bit more of that. And just kind of paint it in over here. Now with our other layer, I'm gonna go ahead and add a mask to this as well. But what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go to edit this. I'm gonna go to flip horizontal. Because most of the smoke when this happened only ended up being on the left side of the photo here, we're gonna end up flipping that over because this is pretty much perfectly centered. We can go ahead and do that. And we're going to just paint in the smoke, which originally would have been on the other side, but we flipped that photo over. Gonna paint it in on this side over here. But we are using a different photo, so the smoke is not gonna be exactly the same on this side. If you wanted to make it like perfectly symmetric, you could go ahead and definitely use the same photo. That looks pretty good right there. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm also gonna go ahead, add an extra just layer here. We're gonna grab the color of the smoke here, and I'm just gonna sort of use this as fake smoke. This is just a normal paintbrush I'm painting in over here. And let's change the layer color a little bit again, change it again, just so none of that stuff is showing in the background. And finally, the last step to get that sort of red, white, and blue look, what we're gonna go ahead and do is add a new layer, select the gradient tool up here, and make sure you have a red and blue selected. Slide that gradient all the way across. As you can see, it makes a nice gradient. Then we're gonna go down to our blend modes over here, and I like the result that I'm get from color. So we're gonna select color and just bring our fill down to maybe about 25% or so, right around there. And this is something that you may wanna try with color. You may wanna go ahead and try with soft light. You just kinda gotta experiment with it. But that is pretty much the basis of getting sort of a photo like this. What I'm also gonna go ahead and do is actually, we're gonna mask this layer and just get rid of the color right on the car. So it's just sort of in the smoke a little bit. And that's pretty much the finished result. Like I said, with this last step, you sometimes have to experiment a little bit with changing the colors of your blues, the color of your red, changing the amount of fill, changing the blend mode. It's just sort of experimenting with this last step. But that is pretty much it. And I probably would have went into more time on editing this photo when I'm actually editing it. But this is just sort of a tutorial on how to sort of get a similar look to this. But hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, that's pretty much it for this one. But I'll see you later.